All right, the June 11th Parks Committee will come to order, and we'll note Alderman Weary present, Alderman Johnson present, Alderman Burnett has been excused, Alderman Nicholson is en route, and Council President Mark Stoyer has joined us today, graced us with his presence out of the bullpen. Thank you, Mark. What are your wishes with the agenda?
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Alderman Johnson, second by Alderman Stoyer. Under this item, would it be all right with the committee if we handle the update on Colburn Pool first? All right?
Will it take a while?
I don't think so.
Okay.
So we'll do that first. And those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. C is approval of the minutes.
Move to approve. So
Motion by
second.
Alderman Johnson, second by Alderman Stoyer to approve. Discussion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Regular business. We'll get the update on Colburn Pool under informational. Director?
Sure. So some of you may be aware of this, maybe you're not though, but 1 week prior to opening Colburn Pool for the season, we began filling the pool basin with water in preparation for the June 9th opening. And then at some point after the water was turned on, we did have a 2-inch pipe that burst in the basement of the mechanical room. The water rose to a depth of 6 feet before staff was aware that we had a flooding issue in the basement. And we have had occasional flooding in the mechanical room before, but it's never been to this extent. So it's never risen to this height before. Unfortunately, all of the pool mechanical and electrical systems were underwater. We met with both the city electricians and the inspection department, and the city will be required to replace anything that's electrical before we are allowed to open the pool to the public. So even if it works, we can't open the pool. We have to replace it. And that's similar to all of the flooding that has occurred on the east side. Similar requirements were made for that. So Public Works did meet with the contractor that we hired to replace all of the equipment at the pool. They were planning to do it this fall, and asked what the feasibility was to install all of the electrical components ASAP to see if we could salvage a portion of the pool season. So we did hear back from the contractor today. So they researched it and determined that it would take about 7 to 9 weeks for all of the pool equipment to arrive after the order is placed. Some of these items will arrive sooner than the 7 to 9 week lead time, but the heaters, the pool heaters, which are a very important element, they do have a 7 to 9 week lead time. This timeline does not include installation. This is just the timeline to order it and get the materials here on site. So it would take additional time to install the pool heaters and all of the other equipment. And as you know, the 10-week pool season started last week Saturday. So due to the length of time it would take to purchase and install the equipment, we really have no choice but to close down the pool for the season. It just is not going to be feasible to open it at all this season. Even if we were to get 1 to 2 weeks of swimming, if the repairs are initiated in a fast pace, it would be very difficult to actually staff the pool for 1 to 2 weeks and get the number of lifeguards and attendants to actually want to work that late in the season for only 1 to 2 weeks. But luckily, we do have 2 aquatic centers in Green Bay that can handle the additional demand. All of the swim lessons would be diverted to one of the other 2 pools. And then we would take advantage of this situation though and begin construction on the new pool construction as soon as the contractor is able to mobilize. So the other bright side to this is the contractor who is going to do the work this fall and next spring now has a little bit more time to make sure that the work gets done prior to the 2020 pool season. So, in summary, this is where we're at. So this is just informational. There really is no option to keep the pool open at this point due to the timing on this. So this was just put under informational. So I would just, obviously, if you have any questions, we can talk about that. But for a motion, I would just say to receive and place on file the update on closing Colburn Pool for the 2019 pool season due to unforeseen mechanical issues.
Questions?
Seems pretty cut and dry.
Yeah, and I appreciate Danny kind of kept me up to date over this last week or so. A lot of people
Yes.
obviously have been reaching out, wondering what's going on, when are their swim classes gonna start? Are we gonna be able to absorb those at the other pools? That was the main question. Swim classes, swim lessons.
Well, I mean, the one challenge that we have is the nighttime swim lessons that Colburn offers us to have at nighttime. So we still have to sit down and really think about how we're gonna accommodate nighttime swim lessons, because we have 2 aquatic centers that on a really warm, hot night,
Yeah.
to also add swim lessons is gonna be a challenge, but we're gonna sit down tomorrow and really
Right.
look at the big picture. So,
Yeah, it's disappointing, but we limped it along for probably longer than we could have or should have, really. I mean, you guys have done a great job of keeping it going this long. The good news is, like you said, they can get in there earlier and get this thing up and running. It'll look brand spanking new next year at this time.
And obviously, this wasn't anybody's wish, it was unforeseen. You know, we were well on our way to having it all staffed and ready to go until this issue happened, so.
Are those other folks gonna be able to go elsewhere, any of them? You know, the other
you talking about
employees?
swim lessons or?
The other employees, like lifeguards, et cetera.
Well, in a way, I mean, as you probably well know from the media also, staffing has been a challenge this year, and it kind of, in a way, kind of helped us open up the other aquatic centers on time. So the challenge still will be, like I said, is to actually have enough staff to staff the pool, the aquatic centers, and staff swim lessons also. So it's not just the fact that we have to try to accommodate swim lessons that night, but we also have to try to find the staffing available and that is trained to have them. So just giving you guys a heads up that, you know, the nighttime swim lessons will be a challenge, but I mean, overall, we are looking at options and we'll do the best we can. So.
Maybe we can have some longer hours here and there to help accommodate it, since we will have a little extra staff in Colburn.
Yeah,
Possibly.
something to take a look at, yeah.
And we can also look at maybe sectioning off portions of the pool to accommodate the swim lessons while we keep the rest of the pool open to the public. So there's options to explore. We'll just have to work out what's feasible and what isn't feasible.
Yep.
Well, thanks. Not great news, but nothing to do about it. Motion to receive and place on file.
So moved.
Motion by Alderman Steuer, second by Alderman Johnson. Under discussion. Those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks.
Thank you.
Back to item 1, consideration with possible action on pickleball options for the west side of Green Bay. Director.
So within the last year, we have been discussing pickleball on the east side of Green Bay. So what we decided to do was convert 2 tennis courts at Edison Park School to 6 dedicated pickleball courts. The total estimated cost for that project was $60,000. We did give the East Side Pickleball Group approval to begin a fundraising effort of $10,000. They were successful with that, reaching their fundraising goal. And then in the 2019 Park Capital Improvement Plan, staff did recommend bonding $50,000 to complete the project at Edison. So this was approved at the Park Committee and referred to the Finance Committee for their review and discussion and approval, which I believe is happening tonight and into next month. So the Finance Committee is talking already about whether or not to fund the $50,000 for the east side location. Recently, pickleball on the west side, individuals from the community reached out to Alder Steuer and to the city and recommended installing dedicated pickleball courts on the west side of Green Bay. There is a huge demand for pickleball in the region. There is somebody here who can talk to that if you open the floor to them. But as we look through this proposal, if we were to convert 2 existing tennis courts into 6 dedicated pickleball courts, the most obvious location for that would be Murphy Park. So last year, the city did build 2 new tennis courts at Perkins Park, which is just walk down, maybe 2 blocks down the road, so it's very close. So we really don't need the tennis courts at Murphy Park as much as we used to. Now, the cost to install pickleball would be a little more expensive than at Edison because the dimension of the courts are a little bit smaller. So what they would recommend, or what we would recommend, is to actually increase the asphalt size of that pad to accommodate 6 dedicated courts to make it more of an ideal spatial requirements for 6 courts. And the cost to do that would be $85,000 to retrofit those courts versus the 60 at Edison. The other option would be to install 6 new dedicated pickleball courts somewhere in the city. The total estimated cost for 6 new courts would be about $200,000. And if the city were to proceed with funding those courts, we could then work with the group to select any location on the west side. At that point, if the funding is there, there's other options than just Murphy Park that we could look at. And we would just work with the group to select an alternate location. So that's kind of a summary of the ask for pickleball on the west side. I would recommend that you open the floor, or if Alder Stoyer wants to add anything to that.
Alderman Strayer?
Well, we have some folks here that play pickleball out in the audience. Mike Brenish, Kim. We have met a number of times on this issue or this potential project, and they will be able to better kind of fill us in a little bit as far as the demand and what's going on. It's growing exponentially in the south, and as time goes on, less folks are playing racquetball, less folks are playing tennis, more folks want to play pickleball. It's a little more amenable to folks from 8 up to 88. So it's a finesse sport. There's some skill involved. There's some workout involved. It's a growing sport, and I think that Green Bay has an opportunity to be a leader here. So with that being said, I'd make a motion to open the floor.
Second. All right, motion by Alderman Stoyer, second by Alderman Johnson. Open the floor. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Anybody here for this item? Just your name and address, please.
Come on up, Mike.
Sir, come
You
on.
wanna
Have a seat.
sit up here.
Yeah, so I brought some.
If I can just get your name and address for.
Name and address.
Hi, my name is Mike Grenish. I'm at 121 Garden Gate Court, Green Bay 54313.
Thanks.
And this is my friend Kim Gudgeon, and we're both avid pickleball players. So I have just a quick intro for you.
Thank you.
This is updated. Yep. Right, so also have some, oops, sorry about that.
They were that good on the board.
There you go. There you go.
Can't get hurt with this.
Yeah, you gotta have props. Those are yours. So, yeah. So I'm an advocate for pickleball, and what we're trying to do here, my presentation kind of says it all. It's just trying to get this on the agenda. Thank you for putting it on the agenda, and then to consider places to build facilities. Right now in Green Bay, we don't have the facilities we need, frankly, and that's why I'm here and trying to get in the process. And since I'm here, I'm very appreciative of being in the process to get things going. So there are places to play pickleball, but it's not necessarily dedicated pickleball courts, right? Other than Fort Howard. Fort Howard right now, across from the Railroad Museum, is kind of the gold standard in the area of their dedicated pickleball courts, and that's really all we have. The folks on the east side have been playing at Edison for a long time before I got involved. I'm an old racquetball player, and so I'm in support of converting to Edison courts, and then hopefully after that we can get something on the west side. And I think there's an opportunity here for Green Bay to really step forward and frankly leapfrog what's out there. I'd like to see, if I had my way, it would be Green Bay is the pickleball mecca of Wisconsin. I'd like the committee and the city to adopt that and then do what it takes to make it happen. We live in a climate that we need indoor facilities. Western Racket is a tennis facility. And what happens is that they basically will tape lines for pickleball. And there's a lot of issues with that. There's some safety issues because there's not enough spacing front to back from the baseline and side to side. So people falling over nets, hurting themselves, running into fences or walls. And that's a big issue. And so I think if we're going to do something, I'd like to suggest that we look at the right size. And I've played at a lot of places around, not only in the region, outside the region, and there always seems to be some type of compromise. And it really comes down to money, right? But I think it starts with the city having a vision and then saying, well, we're going to dedicate this land, and then tactically figuring out how we're going to fund it. And I'd like to suggest that we look at a model that goes beyond public funds, but also gets the private sector involved. So that's it.
Mike, could you add a little bit about the special needs groups that we had talked to?
Sure, and if you look, I think, on the wins for Green Bay, it talks about pickleball appealing to all abilities and also special needs. So that's one reason why pickleball is so engaging of the community, is because pretty much everyone can play. And it's much more amenable to special needs, for sure.
Anything else, Alderman Steuer? Alderman
Well,
Johnson, any questions?
I don't know if Alderman Johnson does. I can keep talking on this for a while.
Good.
No, there are a good 85 or 90 folks that are playing this right now. And you're saying right now that chances are that when people have tournaments or that, they have to go elsewhere generally. There's really not. What you're saying is that these folks come into town. If you had tournaments here, you would be bringing money into the community. I think one of the things you were looking at, or that we talked about, was Military Avenue per se, rejuvenating that area a little bit.
Yep.
And we even entertained the thought, I don't know, it's just cursory at best, but talking about the old Shopko store. It's vacant now. That could be a potential spot as well. And, folks coming from around the Midwest, around the country that play pickleball. We just had a pickleball tournament for women's down in Fort Myers. It was a $100,000 purse. It was on ESPN. So it is growing. And I don't know, I just think we have a good opportunity here to be a leader in this sport. I think once you get past smiling, saying pickleball, a lot of people will, well, what's that? Mike has even suggested having city staff and council playing against some of you guys.
Yeah, to resolve the differences, let's get on the pickleball court and resolve it there.
Any other questions for Mr. Benish? All right, I appreciate it. Thank you. I think that's all the questions we have right now.
I'm good right now.
Anything else you wanted to add?
No.
All right.
Thank
Anybody
you
else
for your
wanted
time.
to- Yeah, thank you. This helps. There you go.
Kim, did you want to?
Anything you wanted to
Kim, did you want to end?
I just want to thank you for taking pickleball into consideration. It's a sport that I started playing about 2 years ago, and I've just had a lot of fun. I've met a lot of great people. I've had a lot of great experiences. It is growing. You see it every place you go.
Kim, could I just get your name and address for
Yes,
the
my
record
name
to keep
is
track of everybody?
Kim Gudgeon, and the address is 705 Frederick Court,
Thank you.
Green Bay, 54313. Yeah, so Mike is the one with the vision. He's the one that sees that we're going to be running into constraints. We're going to be running out of places to play. On a Saturday morning at Fort Howard Park, all the courts are full and there's a line of people waiting to play. That happens on a regular basis, so it's just exciting to see what could happen.
So I appreciate you taking the lead on this. Are you okay with the initial plan to start at Murphy and kind of see how it goes and
Yeah.
expand from there? Dedicate Murphy Park to do this?
Start with Murphy and then go from there.
Yeah, I think that's really, Murphy has a lot of potential. You know, with all these places, there's pros and cons, right? But, you know, I kind of break it down in short, mid, and long term. So short term, there's nothing on the west side, right? Right now, we play, our home court is the Howard YMCA. And so we have to flex our schedule to the aerobics room. And it's our coveted room. And
Pretty sure when I'm playing basketball in the gym and I look over, you guys are playing pickleball. I'm pretty sure.
you need to
You
stop
come over.
looking and start doing. And so that's really our coveted area. And then that's it. There's no place to play outside. So I think, you know, Murphy Park would be the easiest to convert, I believe, money-wise. I think it has, you know, the parking is a concern. I mean, I've been to several tournaments, right? And so there's a lot of stuff going on. You could bring in you know, music, and I mean, it's a big thing. And so I don't know how the folks on Dousman would, you know, you might have to shut the street down, but you know, that's a problem for you guys to solve, right? But yeah, I think there's a great opportunity there for sure.
Was there, and I apologize if I missed it, is there a fundraising component in here? Are you putting some forward, some funds, or do you have a goal, private donation?
Yeah, I think I come out of I come out of the high-tech industry, and I've been involved in fundraising a lot, and you know, successful fundraising. So I think it starts with the vision, right? The city has the land, and I think it'd be great for the city, and so kind of adopting the vision, saying this is what we're going to do, having these renderings, and then find a model to put it perhaps on guys like me to go help raise funds out of the private sector.
So
there's a lot of wealthy people in
You're looking
Green
at
Bay.
the long-term plans for the short term for getting this converted for the 85,000.
Well, that's on these.
Well, I think the number.
Well, I'm
for
going
this
to
one-
defer to Dan
Okay.
on.
I didn't know if you were offering some funds towards that. I know the east side, I think, put up 10,000.
Oh, you're talking about my yeah.
The Murphy Park.
Yeah, yeah. So I would definitely. Half of that money is my wife. So when I said that, my wife said, "You did what?" But I would certainly be the first one to ante funds. I don't know about the $5,000, but I certainly would start with $500. I think I could get.
But if the goal was 10,000 to match what the east side did?
I didn't hear what you said.
Do you think we could raise 10,000 to match what the east side did for Edison?
And we can talk about it as a committee. I'm just wondering if you're offering that up, because a lot of our.
Personally, I believe the answer is yes.
Okay.
I definitely believe the answer is for sure.
And a lot of us West Siders are supporting the east side project also.
Yeah, in fact, the pledges, what's interesting is that most of the pledges for the East Side Edison come from the West Side.
Now that we get one, you'll have to go back and ask them.
Right.
Any
Well, I
other-
don't know about that.
Okay.
We might think we're a little bit more generous than that. I'm not sure. Well, I don't want to create a schism here, but yeah.
Any other questions?
Not
All right,
specifically.
I'll entertain a motion to return.
Motion return.
Man, who wrote that?
Alderman Nicholson joining us. Motion by Alderman Nicholson, second by Alderman Story to return to regular order. Those
Someone
in
put me
favor?
on the
Aye.
roof. Was that Dan?
Opposed? Motion carried.
Sure. You want me to leave?
You-
Stay.
Oh.
Whatever you like. Alderman
Oh,
Story, we
because
have
I
enough
saw
to form a
it.
quorum, so
That's
Okay.
what I win.
And stay or leave, whatever your wishes are.
Stay.
When he said 5,000, I was.
Just don't want the door hitting, you know what?
I did it for you. I did it for you.
All right, what are your wishes, Director?
Okay.
I was just gonna ask the director
Go
to
ahead.
clarify, was there a proposal for a 10,000 in private dollars?
Well, we talked about the potential of fundraising. I know, as he mentioned, he felt that he could successfully fundraise. Right now, he was just kind of bringing the proposal forward to see how the committee felt about it, whether or not they'd be supportive of West Side Pickleball Group, pickleball somewhere in the parks, which option you'd be supportive of, and then would you be willing to actually fund a portion of it or the majority of it?
Now, this obviously wasn't in this year's bond request. Are you looking to change this year's, or are you looking at next year?
Well, right now, it isn't in our 5-year capital improvement plan at all, because this request is a new request that just recently came forward. So the staff is supportive of it. We would have to reevaluate our bond request to see where it would make sense to fit in. If you did want to add it to this year's bond request, you could still do that by making a referral to the Finance Committee to consider it. Because my understanding from the Finance Director is today they were just going to go over the big picture of the 5-year plan, and then next month they were going to go into the specifics of the 2019 capital improvement plan.
Well, I know that finance right now, they're speaking, talking about bonding going from 11 million possibly down to 8 million. So that, I know there is a concern with that. And I've talked with Mike about this in the past too, whether we want to just get the information out or why not grab for it, at least ask. You know, nothing venture, nothing gain. So I think part of what we're saying is that, you know, I think we would like the request to be considered in the bonding for this year. And if it doesn't happen, you know, nobody will take it personal. It's just that, you know, if we don't ask, we won't know. So I feel that the fundraising capabilities of this group would be very good. I think they would match, or not match, but they would come forward with what they would need to do. Part of the reason I'm looking at this too is the overall, when you look at parks in general, over the years, you know, I mean, I played softball for years. You don't see quite as many softball teams. You have a lot of different uses that are changing at parks. You have, some parks have cricket, they're playing cricket. They're talked about lacrosse at one time. There's just different sports, and I think pickleball is one of those sports that's coming forward that will be a trend for the future. And looking at existing parks and seeing where facilities may come into play and to make it more amenable to the public in general. That's part of the reason I'm looking at this.
Appreciate it. Now, Mr. Renish had his hand up. Did you want to open the floor for any
Motion
additional?
to open the floor.
I have to open it back up for the public. So, motion by Alderman Starr, second by Alderman Nicholson. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Mr. Renish?
I just would like to comment on to be mindful of building the right facility, and if it's not the right facility, I would suggest don't do it. Okay, it's what I see is that having to appeal to the higher end pickleball players. If you appeal to the higher end pickleball players, the rest will follow. Okay, so the facilities that are going in right now are, I mean, I appreciate what's happening, for sure, but there's always some type of trade-off, and a lot of trade-off is the spacing, and that's a safety issue. And so what will happen is that those facilities will go idle, because eventually the better players will go away, and then the rest of the body will go. Right? So if you have to wait to gather more funds to do it right, then wait.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else?
Motion to close the floor.
Motion by Alderman Nicholson, second by Alderman Starr to close the floor. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Alderman Johnson?
Dan, what kind of long-term planning have you done? I mean, when you start to think about the uses in the parks, whether it's softball, tennis, pickleball demand that's growing, I mean, what type of, I guess, use studies, if any, do you guys do to determine where the demand's coming from?
Yeah, so we kind of do it on an informal basis. So with athletic fields and rentals, it's very easy to tell what the usage is for ball fields and soccer fields and stuff like that. We can just tell by, how many leagues play on them, etc. It's a little more difficult when you get into tennis and pickleball. We do know that pickleball is growing. When we have been offering pickleball at Edison Park for a number of years. What started out as a few people playing with temporary nets, we now have large tournaments out there. And we're filling up those courts using temporary nets. So we have seen that pickleball usage has gone up. And we've also seen other communities installing pickleball because they're seeing the same thing. So we definitely know there's an increase in usage for pickleball. As far as tennis goes, we don't really have a good way of tracking that. A lot of it is just how often when our park crews are out there, how often do we witness people on the courts. A lot of our courts are in parks where we have an active parkie program going on. So we are able to talk to the parkies to see how much usage they see on the courts. But I think in general, and James can probably speak to this, I think in general, we're seeing less and less tennis players over a number of years. So it's not necessarily, a short situation that's been ongoing for a number of years. And do you have anything to add to that, James?
I would just say, yeah, I mean, that's true. Over the past probably, I would say 5 years or so, we've seen a decrease in the amount of youth lessons, for example. Just the numbers have gone down for youth lessons for tennis. Also, we used to run an adult, tennis, league, and it's pretty much now people that do play tennis. I mean, they have their places that they go and play now, or it's very sporadic, and I would consider it more recreational. Pickleball definitely has taken the lead on kind of a trending sport by just Edison and the amount of activity that happens there on a nightly basis, plus the 2 tournaments actually that we run. We've actually filled those tournaments the last 2 years we ran them with, I think last year it was like 72 or 74 teams in one tournament, and the other one was, and they were from, people from 4 different states. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, the trend is there. I mean, it's definitely without a doubt. And it's not just in Wisconsin here. I mean, it's nationwide. So we go to conferences, of course, state conferences. Went to the national conference last year. Pickleball was one of the most up and coming sports. Especially what I like about it too, actually, is it really tailors towards a wide variety of people. So it's not just young people. It's also people that have more experience. Didn't want to say old, but
Don't look at me when you say that.
but I mean, it's just a very versatile sport, and it's very inclusive, is what I'm trying to say. So it's a good sport right now.
So do we do anything in terms of court reservations, anything like that, where we can track the occupancy of our facilities?
We do that, like I said, with athletic fields, with tennis courts. We do that on a limited basis, but most of our courts are just informal. Let's go there by the neighborhood and use it when it's open. Okay. And usually there isn't a problem. There's always courts open for the most part. But we do track some things whenever there's a rental. But there really isn't a good way to do it on our tennis courts because we don't lock the gates. They're open to the public at all, whenever the park is open. And so there's no good way of tracking it because we don't require a reservation for those.
Okay, so we're looking at approximately $200,000, you said, to do this particular proposal in Murphy Park, and that's to more or less retrofit an existing tennis court.
It would be $85,000 to retrofit 2 tennis courts into 6 pickleball courts. It's a little more expensive than Edison, but it's $85,000.
Where did the
To
200
build-
number come from?
The
200,000.
$200,000 is for
New.
brand new courts.
Which was going to be my next question.
Which could be put in any park where there's adequate room.
Okay.
And there are other options besides Murphy Park that might be a better fit if we were to build a new court facility. The nice thing about building a new facility is that you can build it in such a way that if the demand continues to increase, it can be designed and built so that you can easily add on to it and add another 6 courts if that demand ever reaches that level.
What type of maintenance would typically come with facilities like this?
It's similar to a tennis court, so technically every 5 years or so, you should be recolor coding these facilities. We haven't been doing that. We're probably at maybe every 8 to 10 years for our tennis courts. And that's more typical of what you'd see for a casual park facility. But if you're looking at a tournament facility where you want to keep it looking as a tournament facility, you should be color coding about every 5 years.
Alderman Beck?
Thank you, Chair. I think one thing too is that at Perkins Park, for example, there used to be 6 courts, correct? Tennis courts?
Correct.
Now we're down to
6.
2. So there has been a decrease there, and you're saying that those pads, that area will be redone at some time in the future. I did look at a park plan with you and with Mike the other day, and they were even talking about the fact that Perkins Park, they were talking about Little League Baseball, you know, and a lot of these communities that have complexes of Little League, which are really important for those communities, usually there's 4 diamonds, and then there's concessions. And then where we're at Perkins, there's room for maybe 3 ball fields and concessions. And some of the leagues are saying that's not quite good enough. So there is a possibility that may change too, as far as that's been a focus for Little League for years. So that's why I brought up the point about parks, the fact that over time, the populations are changing. You have different dynamics as far as people getting involved in certain sports. And what I've seen with Mike, he kind of, lit the fire for me to read and look into this, is that I really feel like Green Bay has an opportunity here to look at a sport that's up and coming and growing, and it could be economically beneficial to the area. So I'm all for it. That's all I have.
Director, is it in your opinion better to retrofit right now and kind of test the water, or should we look long-term and maybe come back with maybe looking at a new facility? I mean,
Well, in my opinion, either option is acceptable. The only concern that was really addressed with retrofitting Murphy Park, although like I said, they're in agreement of that location, their primary concern is a lack of parking for whenever there's a tournament there. So if that can be addressed at some point in the future by making that parking lot bigger, or maybe, I believe we do allow street parking there, but that's their primary concern. Now, if we look at an alternate location, maybe we can find a location that has adequate parking already to address their concerns. And there's a number of sites that could accommodate that.
I would think with either one here, either the retrofit or the new, there has to be a fundraising component. I mean, we see that now with a lot of our parks things, whether it's Little League or the pool, there's a private group that helps drive it. And it sounds like there's a willingness there, but not a firm commitment or a plan.
There's a willingness if that's what the park committee desires.
Okay.
So.
It was more of a feeler right now, just to get it out there. There was no plan in place saying like, we're gonna raise 25,000 or this and that. I think they were looking for some direction from the committee and the city to say, you know what, I think we have something here that is good and could be very important in the future. Are we willing to at least look at this? And I have a feeling that if the committee says yes, there will be a concerted effort to do a fundraise, and we could get something probably together in the next couple of weeks as far as a plan and a goal, and et cetera, and we could come back to the committee and talk about that.
Well, if we build new, obviously it wouldn't be this year. You'd be looking at next year at the earliest, right?
Correct.
So, and the retrofitting, if it were included in the bonding, would you still be looking at next year, or would you try and squeeze it?
It probably would be next year. I mean, as you know, we're
Okay.
backlogged on
Yep.
projects. We
Yep.
recently hired a civil engineer in the Parks Department, but we're still looking at our priorities from past projects, so.
I know that's on the agenda as Little League, we have some projects that are pending at a couple parks that obviously we don't want to leapfrog them, so.
I mean, I would like to say we'd get to it this fall if we bonded for it this year, but there's no way I could promise that at this point.
So there's not necessarily a big rush tonight to have to decide something, but we can give direction, but not.
Right.
Alderman Johnson?
Yeah, and I think, like, I'm supportive of sort of the adaptation, I guess, of the use of our parks. When we see things that are emerging, we need to respond to that. When we see things that maybe have seen reduced demand, I'm also supportive of that. I think my fear is that as the bonding cycle is very imminent, my fear would be pushing or forcing something through when right now we've really had nothing more than a preliminary presentation. And I've just seen, I think, a lot of examples of where we've bonded things prematurely, and then we're paying interest on that money and maybe not using it for another year, sometimes even longer. And so I would be, I think, more supportive of saying, let's slow the train down in the sense of let's get more data, let's figure out if retrofitting's the right move, if you know, a new court is the right move. I would much rather see this in the next bonding cycle so that we can ensure that we're being more thoughtful about the way that we plan this development. And I think, even to his point, let's make sure we do it right before we do it in a rushed manner. And so I think I'd be more supportive of that. And if referring to staff is the right option for the staff, you know, to kind of put together that plan, I would be supportive of that.
Is that your motion?
I would move that we refer to staff and have them report back. I guess, I don't know if this all needs to be included in the motion, but Dan, I guess the thing that I would just ask is maybe you talk a little bit about their ability to fundraise, talk with them, obviously their team directly, what they might be able to fundraise to help contribute to the project. And I think that's good information to come back with. And then, of course, knowing like, and I don't know where you've come up with the numbers of 85,000, 200,000, but it would be nice to know how tangible those numbers are.
Sure.
I'll second it.
Motion by Alderman Johnson, second by Alderman Nicholson to refer this to staff to work with the interested groups and bring back a recommendation, or just bring it back?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like the idea of the new facility, but that's gonna take a lot more planning. If we're gonna do it, let's do it right. But it's gonna take fundraising and a lot of planning, and we wouldn't do it until next year anyway, so. Any other comments? Alderman Sawyer?
Well, I'll just, you know, I think Alder Johnson does bring up a good point. We're in the middle of the bonding cycle right now, and I have heard that they're trying to cut from 11 million down to 8 million. So, and there are a lot of projects that we need to get through. I think this is a very important project. I really feel that we, you know, need not to put this in the back mirror and forget about it. I really think this is something that will be very beneficial to the city in the long run. But we have to be creative about it, and I think that, you know, as long as staff can look at this, I would feel like, I would really like to see something rolling so that we, by next year, we can be ready to roll as
Okay.
much as possible.
So what we can do is we'll work with them to put together a plan, look at the fundraising component of it, select a location if the desire is to go with the premier courts, and we'll come back to the park committee with the full proposal at a later date.
All right with me?
Perfect.
Those in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Motion carried. This goes to council next week on Tuesday. It's a recommendation. Can't imagine council would change anything, but you're welcome to come to that. It's Tuesday night at 6. Otherwise, I'm sure you guys will be in touch. And we'll see you plenty in the future, I hope. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Number 2, consideration of possible action on the request by Alderman Weary to discuss the progress and future plans for Little League and Babe Ruth ball field facilities on the west side of Green Bay. Director, thanks for putting this on so quick.
So what I'll do is I'll talk about what our plans are for the next 2 years as it relates to our capital improvement plan. If additional questions come up as far as what the usage is and, you know, what's been happening with the programs, we can definitely defer to James. He has all that information as far as number of players in the league, et cetera. So over the next 2 years, the Parks Department will be requesting funding to improve the Little League ball fields at both Colburn and the Babe Ruth ball fields at Perkins Park. So the Little League group approached the city a few years ago and requested that we find a location on the west side of Green Bay where a fourplex Little League field could be built somewhere. So that would be ideal for a tournament facility, is to have a location with 4 fields all in one location. Their desired location was Colburn Park when they looked at all of the facilities on the west side. After staff reviewed that, we're in agreement. Colburn is really the appropriate spot for that type of a facility, and it's really the only park on the west side that's large enough to accommodate 4 fields without drastically changing the usage of any particular park. So really it's a good fit. So a few months ago when we discussed the 2019 capital improvement plan, that the Parks Department brought forward. In that plan, staff recommended bonding $650,000 to remove the single Babe Ruth baseball field that's at Colburn Park and replace it with 2 new Little League fields with sports lighting. So because there's 2 existing fields there, by adding 2 new fields, we would end up with a 4-plex there. Additional parking was going to be created because we do have a huge parking issue at Colburn whenever there's ball games going on out there. Our original intent was to use some of the remaining pool funding to basically add parking and change the configuration of it to handle that. And that was going to also serve as our pool overflow parking for Colburn. But because the bids came in so high, we really don't have the money set aside as part of that project anymore to do any expansion of the parking lot there. So if that funding, the $650,000 gets approved, we would probably recommend that the athletic sports lighting for those 2 fields just be deferred to a later date. And we use the $300,000 that was set aside out of the $650 to instead put that towards expanding the parking lot that's there. So that's our plan for Colburn Park. And that has been reviewed with the Little League group. They're supportive of it. We did talk about that at the bond request a few months ago. The master plan at Perkins, what we would end up doing there is, several years ago we brought a master plan forward for that area. And at the time, the desire was to have two Babe Ruth ball fields with 1 concession stand, and then a Little League complex of 3 fields. And that concept was brought forward maybe 5 years ago or so. Obviously, since we don't need the 3-plex anymore because we're hopefully building one at Colburn Park, we can instead build something different where the 3 Little League fields were shown on the master plan. So we really have a shortage of soccer, so our plans right now would be to convert that to 2 soccer fields instead of 3 Little League fields, because our needs are met at Colburn if this goes forward. But because Babe Ruth would be short 1 field, because we're removing it at Colburn, in next year's bond request, which is already part of my 5-year plan, we threw in, I believe, $350,000 in next year's request to build the Babe Ruth field at Perkins, which, although we're not adding any Babe Ruth fields, what we're doing is we're moving the one from Colburn to Perkins. So now we have 2 fields right next to each other, which is more of a tournament facility for Babe Ruth, because we'll have 2 fields at Perkins instead of 1. So long story short, we asked for $650,000 for Colburn this year, and we're hoping to ask for $350,000 for Babe Ruth next year.
Thank you, Director. When would the Colburn project start? Would that be this fall right away?
I doubt it would be this fall because the funding isn't in place. So we're doing a very late bond request. This is the latest that I can remember. So by the time the money comes in and we get caught up with some of our other projects, it would be a project for next year, I'm fairly certain. But if the funding is there and we know it's there, then we would begin the engineering. We'd have to hire a stormwater management consultant because we're disturbing over X number of acres, and so stormwater management has to be a part of it. So if the money's secured, we'll probably do that engineering this winter so we can construct it next year.
Did you want to speak on this at all? I can open the floor.
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
Motion
Motion open the floor for
Motion by Alderman
parties.
Johnson, second by Alderman Nicholson to open the floor. Those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Can I get your name and address?
Troy Ness, 1151 14th Avenue.
All yours, Troy.
All right. Well, I've taken over this past year as the president of Babe Ruth. So, and we have talked in the past about the plan at Perkins and pulling it together. I think what you brought up, as my position, I think is a great idea. We've been struggling with volunteers, which everybody has. So to have two Babe Ruth diamonds at one place with a concession stand really helps run a tournament. I know with Joanne's being the situation that it is there, we're trying to work with the Legion groups, ourselves. You know, we really need to communicate better with that, to put that in there, but I think a really good start would be to be able to do that Perkins project, as you said, and having the Little League over at Coburn, to pull that together would be great. When you first said that, I was like, the high schools are gonna be really mad, because basically Southwest and Notre Dame use that Coburn diamond for high school baseball. But if we're able to do that right there, that also helps us for tournaments for Babe Ruth, probably helps the Legion guys for them to run a tournament, pulling that stuff together to really bring people into the community. Like for us this year, we're running the Ohio Valley Regional Tournament here in Green Bay at Perkins and Joanne's. I mean, you're bringing in 12 teams from the Midwest that are gonna be coming here, which I think if we do things right with our facilities and what we can do from the areas that I have experienced, because I was the past state commissioner for Wisconsin, so I've been to Indiana, I've been to Ohio, I've been to seeing what's happening with some of these other facilities that aren't these high, you know, they're not the ISA facilities and stuff like that, where we can bring this to a more affordable for the community, for the kids that, you know, I'm a West High kid, you know, and seeing what we can do for Little League and getting more kids involved in the sports and doing those things. And I think that helps me a lot for what you're saying, because we've been hearing every year it's coming, and all of us who've been around it know, once you do the initial project, we gotta let it sit for a year before you can actually play ball on it, so it doesn't get tore up. And then pulling that stuff together, and pulling it together again with Edison, with the concession stand situation that we had too, and that's something I brought up to Chris with the break-in, the one that we have is just not, I mean, it's not safe, it's not ideal. We have proposed with Babe Ruth of building another concession stand similar to Perkins. And I understand there's a lot of logistics with the water situation at Edison, wherever we go with that. But that's another thing that we have set some funds aside for that, and now when sitting here with the pickleball guys going, they're doing a tournament at Edison. And, you know, I think we're sitting at a prime time to pull stuff together, and where we got businesses and people right now are saying, hey, we want this, and it's growing and it's starting to come back. And I think with me going back to our people and saying, hey, being at this committee and saying there's some positive going in the right direction, because a lot of people in our community, baseball wise, have felt that the city has kind of pushed us aside. And you can see by the leagues that are forming down in Appleton and ISA and doing all that stuff. And we hurt from that. And this year, I can say we have 10 teams in our league that last year we had 4. And so they're coming back slowly but surely. But if we're showing again, look what we're doing and what Green Bay is doing. And I think it's a win-win for everybody, but the communication has just got to be improved. And that's, you know, that's, I'm not putting blame, but I say once we do that, and like they were saying, there's a lot of people in the city that have money and are willing and saying, hey, just tell us what it's gonna cost. And we can raise the funds. We did it at Perkins, you know, we will do it for this, for the baseball diamond, and make, you know, Joanne's the gem that we all know. I grew up here. I've played there. I mean, it's, you know, it's near and dear to a lot of baseball guys in the area here. So I appreciate that it looks like, hey, things are gonna happen, and we can run a Little League tournament, Babe Ruth, and all of that stuff together, because these communities, I'm really tired of hearing everybody they're going to play in the Dells. Where are you going this weekend? Well, we're going to the Dells. I mean, we just had a tournament 2 weeks ago. We had 14 teams here, 5 of which came up from Milwaukee. My Woodbat tournament at the end of the month, we have 16 teams coming here, playing a Woodbat tournament for 3 days. I mean, that's feeding into the west side and Joanne's for, you know, even Edison for where they're staying in the hotels, and the hotels are loving it, because we've worked with the Brown County group for hotels, and they've been blocking stuff off for us and doing well, because they're happy. I mean, they want to try to get the Babe Ruth World Series here. That's a bigger undertaking, you know, especially with Packer training camp. But they're excited with the Ohio Valley coming, and that took us 2 years to secure that. So again, anything you guys need or what you want from us.
So Troy, you like the plans as presented?
I do. At first, you scared me when you said you're getting rid of the Babe Ruth diamond at Coburn, because I'm like, oh my God. I mean, we're struggling to find places to practice for the kids and trying to play and do whatever. And I'm an old school guy. Games don't make kids better, practice does. And if we're limited on the practice facilities, we're not doing justice because we're just playing games there. I get that. But to say that, and for us, it's really reassuring to know when we first built that concession stand at Perkins, that was our ultimate goal, is to try to keep everything as together as possible to really help our community. And I think it'll be a great thing.
Any questions from Ms. Paness?
Yep.
Alder Johnson?
Yeah.
We'll just go ahead.
Go ahead.
Alder Johnson.
Thanks, Troy. Good to see you again.
Yes.
You know, one thing that you said that really just made my ears perk is sort of the heads in beds comment and the people traveling and staying in the hotels. Because to me, that opens up some potential funding sources. So do you have any, like, inkling, of when we host these tournaments, I mean, how many hotel rooms are being reserved and how frequently does that happen over the course of the year, and what could it be? And I'm not necessarily looking for you to maybe put a number on it right now.
I know what you're asking.
But could you get that data?
I could really get it, pull it together. I mean, just based on what we did in a short period of time with the Ohio Valley and how they came to us and said, I mean, the hotels were begging us to have people come and stay. Like, really, you're gonna do that during this time? Yes. And it kind of run like the WIA does, where they block the rooms off. So for us this year, once we find out who the Indiana team is, they're staying at this hotel. And then the Ohio guys, you're staying at this hotel. So it's not a deal of the parents running and rushing to wonder what hotel or find the cheapest or whatever, so they're not staying at the, whatever it's called on Ashland, for it changes all the time, that they're not staying there. Just a little pun there, but the other places that are going around, it's reassuring to see that and to know we are providing a good product. And when we provide a good product, maybe we're gonna get more of those people that are going to tournaments in the Dells and they're gonna stay right here in the Green Bay area. Because that's what I get from people. Well, we're not going because we're going to the Dells. Well, it's so much nicer at the Dells. Well, I'm a baseball purist playing on artificial turf and all that other crap that's not baseball. That's just weather convenience. But, they're making a lot of money because everybody's going there. So if we got the nice facilities, but I can definitely research it more and go back in our books for Babe Ruth to when we were, probably Andy remembers, we were running, 28 to 30 teams a weekend tournament here in Green Bay, that they were coming here. It was just the lack of the facilities, but when they were, they were coming, they're coming from Milwaukee, they're coming from Stevens Point, Wausau, up north, the UP, we finally reached up to those guys, they're coming down. So it's just the deal of saying, here's what we have, build it. If you build it, they'll come.
Sure.
And I think that's what we're seeing.
So Dan, have we, I guess, ever considered a grant application to the stadium board?
Not for this particular project, but we can look at that.
I think it would be something worth looking at, knowing that they, the types of projects maybe that they would look to, particularly when you can increase the number of hotel stays.
It's a good idea.
And that's why I think looking at some background information and, how many people have we attracted in the past versus what we are now, and how can we, change that course, I think that could make for a strong application.
No, that's a good idea.
Alder Steuer?
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Troy, for coming in. And I had the pleasure of coaching my son in Little League and Babe Ruth over the years. I know Chris has been involved and Andy's been involved as well, with baseball over the years. And, well, he's always involved with everything. But we'll get into that later. Anyway, and I think one of the things that I saw when I was coaching and such, we played most of our games at Perkins, and, it was fine, it was okay. But then we'd go to these tournaments in O'Connell Falls and Seymour and Clintonville, and you'd go to these communities and it was just unbelievable. They had these top-notch facilities, hundreds of people, hundreds. you know, from all over. And these people would stay at the hotels and go to the restaurants and that. And even back then, you know, even before I was on council and all this stuff, I was looking at that as economic development. I mean, it was amazing. So just for that fact alone, and Alder Johnson brings up some good points about the hotels and such. But, I mean, we're talking about pickleball before, you know, people coming in, tournaments, people stay. And Green Bay, you know, whether people like it or not, we are a draw, just the city of Green Bay. People want to come to our city. So this just gives us one more reason to do that. So, you know, part of me is a little sad, you know, because Perkins, you know, it's in my district, I kind of like that area, but the fact that we would have a great facility at Colburn Park is fantastic. And I guess the question I had, are the 4 diamonds going to be in a circular pattern?
No,
So-
they will not be because we can't fit them on the site in that
Because
pattern
I'm just saying a lot of diamonds
cutting
have
down
that.
trees. So we would have to remove quite a few trees to do that. But this is what the concept would look like.
Do we have any other questions for Mr.
Oh, no,
Ness?
right now,
Motion to
just
close the
thank you
floor
for
for
coming in.
interested parties.
Second.
Motion
A
by
regular
Alderman Nicholson,
business,
second
I
by
mean.
Alderman Story, to close the floor. Those in favor?
All right.
Opposed, motion carried. All right, as a committee here, do you have a couple extra of those, Dan?
Yeah. So the first page is the existing conditions, the second one is proposed. The 2 fields on the right-hand side.
Troy, do you
are
have
the
one of these?
existing
Do you
ones.
want one of these?
Bring it to your group, Troy.
What's that?
Bring it to your group if
This-
you don't have it.
This is Colburn, right?
Yeah.
This is Colburn?
I can get you better graphics too than this.
Just,
This was
just
kinda
email me,
last
James
minute.
already got my email, just forward it to me and then I'll show that. This is Colburn.
Yes, this would be the layout for Colburn. So as you can see, there's a lot of wooded areas in there. The only way that we could fit a 4-plex with diamonds is to clear cut a big portion of the forested area.
That wouldn't go very well.
And that we're not in favor of, so.
Dan, what are you looking for, an approval?
You know, for now, this was just a update on where we sit with the process, so I would say
Receive and place on file, that's my motion.
Motion by Alderman Nicholson,
Second.
second by Alderman Story, to receive and place on file. Any comments, questions? Those in favor?
All right.
Opposed, motion carried. Number 2, consideration with possible action on, number 3. Consideration with possible action on the purchase of 1705 East Shore Circle, parcel 21439 for the expansion of Bay Beach Amusement Park.
I would just recommend that we go right in closed session on this one,
All right, and that's to discuss the purchase, right?
to discuss the purchase of the property.
Anybody like to make that motion and read?
I'll make that motion.
If we could, there's no one here for this item, right? I don't think.
No.
No, there is no one here.
Mike, can we, if the committee's
can
all right,
Mike
can we
stay
move
here?
up Mike's item?
Well, or we
Yeah.
could just move up some of the items.
Yeah,
to-
let's do that.
Why don't we hold this till the end?
Oh, you got something, Mike?
Like I said, Andy's.
Let's hold this item to the end of the
I would
committee.
That's
move that we
good.
hold item 3 to
Yeah.
the end of the agenda.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Johnson, second by Alderman Story to hold item 3 until the end of the agenda. Those in favor?
And actually, can I add
Aye.
item 4 to that as well,
3 and then 4?
since that one seems to be kind of tied to that issue? 3 and 4.
All right,
Second.
3 and 4 we will handle at the end of the committee. Those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Number 5, consideration with possible action on the request of Alderman Weir to discuss how to enable free Wi-Fi access or increase bandwidth during city council, committee, council meetings. Mr. Ronick, welcome aboard.
Good evening. Right now, we have, X amount of pipe for our committee meetings, and any extra we give to the public reduces your level of bandwidth. So if you happen to pull down some documents or something like that, or somebody else is working, because we have a lot of meetings during the middle of the workday, that just limits our access. I would probably have to bring in another internet pipe, associated equipment, and everything else to make this happen. Yeah, I'd really hate to give up any kind of internet bandwidth for our work staff. We're going to the cloud more, using the internet more for research, everything.
So how does that work during the meeting if, and then we all know there's someone who likes to live stream the meeting? Do they blocked out? Or
No,
they just
no,
not-
people are probably just about able to download the documents out of an agenda item. Our access limits their bandwidth, which basically is their video. So they could easily hotspot to their phone and stream their Facebook page or whatever if they'd like. You know, and if I give somebody a little bit more access during a meeting, that's not to say that somebody else couldn't take up that access watching YouTube or Netflix, waiting on their other agenda item during the meeting. So it's pretty difficult for me to restrict that just for one person.
And it's a major undertaking, I assume, to bring in.
Well, it's
extra.
a cost, you know,
Yeah.
it's an added monthly cost for the internet pipe, and then there's equipment and cabling, things like that, you know. In Brown County, they do the same thing as us. You get a very faint signal in the county, in the council chamber room of Brown County's internet. And they do have a Wi-Fi access point inside the council chamber. They just use it for their internal staff. They have a fiber coming over here, and so it's gonna be costly. Well, there's gonna be cost to it and maintenance. And I think 5G is just rolling right around the corner. Next year, that's gonna increase the bandwidth and the speed on somebody's phone.
I was just gonna ask you, Mike, as you were alluding to with this migration to more cloud-based computing right now, I mean, do you see the need for an additional pipeline?
Well, if anything, it'd be a redundant pipeline for city staff, because if if we're going to the cloud more and relying on it more, if something happens from our internet connection out east to City Hall, we lose the internet. I'd like an internet connection coming from the west into City Hall. That would be solely for city staff, just for redundancy.
Okay, so right now, are we meeting the needs, I guess, of the staff at City Hall, or
I
are
would
we limping along?
I would like to say yes, we are meeting the needs. If you look at the finance, today's finance committee agenda, I put in some internet graphs because of what happened at the last council meeting, and we're running 300 and 400 up and down. And if you did a speed test at home, you would see a significant
that's very
difference.
fast.
Yeah, that's very fast. But again, we got hundreds of people relying on our internet service throughout the city workers, I should say, so it'd be hard for me to give any of that up.
So right now, we're meeting the needs of staff, but not necessarily meeting the needs of maybe public access.
They have a chunk of the bandwidth, and they can download agendas and things like that, but not stream.
Okay.
And we can't, once we provide like streaming to Facebook, our internet, which is like our web browser filter, like separates out like Facebook and Netflix into the same category. And we can block single lines and stuff like that, but I just can't ever say that that service would have enough bandwidth to operate because somebody could be streaming something else. I'd like to watch a baseball game during the council meeting.
Yeah, for the staff, if you're watching a movie during our meeting.
Yeah.
So when we look at, I guess, sort of this, elevated level of transparency, if you will, with public government, I know that, there was this concept of live streaming all of our committee meetings, right? And then we pulled back on that, and I understand that, but like, if we were to go back to that and live stream government meetings again, because we've figured out, the closed captioning component, does that increase our need for additional capacity?
We'd have to test that. Right now, we have 2 meetings going on. I think our bandwidth would handle that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have more than 2 meetings,
Yeah, streaming up, right.
that'd be a problem.
And and we used to stream council meetings up, and and you could see how many people were watching it, and it was like 15, and 10 were probably city workers at home,
Mhm.
just following what's going on.
Sure.
Well, that's a big demand.
Yeah, I mean, certain items, they might become more elevated and things like that, but just sitting and watching a whole council meeting, that's just background noise probably for most people. They don't want to see this.
Right.
See, I got-
But they want to see that.
Anything else, Alderman Johnson? Any other
Yeah.
questions? Alderman Sawyer? Alderman Nicholson?
I have nothing.
I appreciate the update. I think it was a question that, at least I know I was asked quite a bit.
Sure.
And then I was asked to put it on an agenda so we could discuss it, and hopefully people can understand their
Right.
needs are very important, but
Mhm.
we have to run our meetings in
Right.
City Hall, and hopefully some technology changes coming should.
Yeah, next year or two, you'll see 5G, so. hopefully
5G will help.
Yeah, right.
People-
And I still think they're able to stream for the most part and get a meeting out to the public. Maybe they had some latency problems last week or
Okay.
last meeting or something, yeah.
I appreciate you.
All right, sure.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Motion to receive and place on file.
Motion by
Second.
Alderman Stoyer, second by Alderman Nicholson to receive and place on file.
Thank you.
Discussion. Those in favor?
Right?
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 6, approval of a resolution in support of a DNR stewardship grant application of $625,000 to construct a beach, pier, boardwalk, bathhouse, parking lot, statue of Dan Ditchite at Bay Beach, oh, no, that part was not in there, strike that, at Bay Beach Amusement Park.
So last year, the city council approved a $5 million funding for the installation of the swimming beach, along with all the other amenities that were just mentioned. And the remaining $2 million in funding was to come from $1 million in fundraising and $1 million in grants. In May of this year, staff did submit a $625,000 grant application through the DNR Stewardship Program. The DNR only has one grant cycle per year for this program, and we are proposing to use the city's $5 million that we have in hand as a match to the grant. So we have discussed this project with the DNR, and they do feel that this is an appropriate project and it fits well within their grant goals, program goals. So as part of the application process, the DNR does require that the city council formally approve a resolution in support of the application submittal. So you'll see the resolution in the attachments. Without this resolution, our chances of getting the grant are less. And the reason we applied for $625,000 is because that is what remains out of the $1 million of our grant goal. We've already secured other grants in the amount of $375,000.
Any questions? Is that what the governor was,
That, we'll be talking about something else later on in the agenda with that.
what are the
Motion
wishes
to
of the committee?
approve.
Motion by Alderman Nicholson
Second.
to approve, second by Alderman Johnson. Discussion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 7, approval of a resolution in support of a DNR stewardship application for
Thank you.
$123,000 for the purchase and installation of a pedestrian bridge in the Baird Creek Greenway. Director.
So this is very similar to the last agenda item where we're looking for approval of a resolution in support of the grant application. So I'll give you a little brief summary of what this application is for. The application was also submitted last May at the same time as the other one. We requested $123,000 in DNR stewardship money, and this is a 50-50 match. So if approved, the city's match would come from a couple of sources. So a portion of it would come from fundraising from the Bear Creek Preservation Foundation. To date, they've already secured $30,000 towards this project to add a pedestrian bridge in this location. They will continue to look for other sources. The remaining portion would likely come from just the city, the park department's bond request of existing bond, of existing bond money that's already in place from projects that came in a little bit under budget. So we would use excess money from that to pay for this. So we are not requesting any additional funds at this time to be allocated into the city's bond request. So this proposed bridge would be located just north of the existing parking lot, just off of Bear Creek Road. If you can tell from this map, there is a one-way bike trail which travels, on this map it travels from north to south, but in reality it kind of goes from west to east. And what happens is the creek creates a barrier where people on this trail cannot cross the creek. So they are forced to cross the railroad tracks in the location shown on this graphic. That crossing is not an approved railroad crossing. And the railroad a few years ago, they posted no trespassing signs. They also occasionally staff it and give warnings to people who cross the tracks. We have met with, the city has met with the railroad on 1 or 2 occasions and requested a legalized crossing there. and that is not something that the railroad is interested in granting us a formal crossing in that location. So because this is a one-way trail and the topography is in such a way that we can't create a two-way trail, any biker on this path has to cross the tracks there. There's no other way around it. And then what it does is it kind of goes through the woods for a short period of time and gets them to Moon Valley Road, which then hits Baird Creek Road. So the thought behind adding a pedestrian bridge here is to give bikers a direct access to Baird Creek Road. So we do have a little parking turnaround area that you can see on this map that's just off of Baird Creek Road. The total cost, we have hired an engineering consultant to design this bridge and the footings associated with it and get all of the permits for it. The cost of this bridge is $246,000, and that would be for the larger bridge shown in location 1. So although the bridge is longer in location 1 than in location 2, there's less engineering that's involved because we would not have to do a floodway study. If we pick location 2, it would be an almost identical cost, but the cost would go towards additional engineering that would have to be done to do a floodway study. So again, this is just a summary of the grant that was applied. What I'm looking for is approval of the resolution in support of the application.
Hey, motion to approve.
Motion by Alderman Nicholson.
Second.
Second by Alderman Johnson to approve. Discussion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 8, consideration with possible action on the approval of a $100,000 grant from the Wisconsin Coastal Management Program for the construction of the shoreline improvement project at Bay Beach Amusement Park.
So today, the Wisconsin Coastal Management Program announced their award of a $100,000 grant to construct the Bay Beach Shoreline Project, which is the beach, pier, boardwalk, bathhouse, and parking lot at Bay Beach Amusement Park. Per the city's policy with grants, the Park Committee and City Council would have to formally approve accepting the grant. So really, that's what I'm here to do, is just approve accepting.
Motion
the
to approve.
grant award.
Second.
Motion by Alderman Nicholson, second by Alderman Stoyer. Discussion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 9, consideration with possible action on hiring Rickert and Milky for $37,500 to complete stormwater management engineering for Bay Beach Amusement Park.
So I do have a summary in the agenda packet showing the summary of the firms that quoted on this. So the city did send out a request for a proposal for stormwater management engineering for Bay Beach Amusement Park. So 3 companies submitted proposals. Staff is recommending to award the contract to the low quote, which was Rickert and Milky, for a total cost of $37,500. Although there is a large cost differential between the low quote and the 2 other companies that quoted the work, Public Works has reviewed the proposals. They are familiar with this company, and they do not have a concern with their qualifications necessary to complete the project per their quote. So at this point, I would recommend approval of hiring them. The stormwater management plan will be a plan for the entire site. So it's a general concept showing whenever we developed a portion of the site, how the stormwater management would be handled. Because that's something that right now on a case-by-case basis, we're doing it on an individual project. So when we did the Falling Star, it was the stormwater management just for the Falling Star. For the beach, we have to do stormwater management for the beach. So this plan will look at the site as a whole. We'll see some efficiencies, so we're not going to end up with a bunch of little stormwater management sites from here on out, because there's still a lot of future potential development out there. But really, it's going to be necessary, no matter what, to put in the beach and the additional parking lot for the beach. So we have to do the stormwater management plan for the beach and the parking anyway. So that's a summary of the project and a summary of the quotes.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Alderman Nicholson to approve. Second by Alderman Johnson. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Just
One question, Alderman Strayer.
Too late.
Pardon?
Go ahead.
I wouldn't allow it if I was chairman.
Oh, no, you,
I wouldn't, like, go ahead.
We'll approve it. I just wanted to ask why, the disparity, it's, I realize that it's just such a big difference.
We did not ask the
Years.
company what that is. It could be any number of reasons. Maybe they haven't worked with the city on a stormwater management plan before, but they're definitely capable of doing it. And maybe this is their way to get their step in the door.
All right,
I can't answer that question without asking them.
all right, that's
they
fine.
do a good job and they keep having these prices, they can do more work.
I guess so. All right, I'm good.
All right, those in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Motion carried. And we are back to item 3, I believe. Consideration of possible action on the purchase of 1705 East Shore Circle, parcel 21439 for the expansion of Bay Beach Amusement Park.
Move to go into closed session.
Motion by Alderman Johnson,
Oh, okay.
second by Alderman Stoyer to go into closed session. Would you like to read?
Committee may convene closed session pursuant to sections 19.85, subsection 1, subsection E, Wisconsin statutes for purpose of deliberating or negotiating the sale of public properties, investing in public funds, or conducting other specified public business as necessary for competitive or bargaining reasons. The committee may thereafter reconvene in open session pursuant to section 19.82, subsection 2, Wisconsin statutes to report the results of the closed session and consider the balance of the agenda.
There's a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
No.
Okay, 3-1. We're in closed session.
Make a motion to go back into
Oh.
open session.
Make a motion to go back in open
Motion to
session.
go back in open session. Alderman Nicholson, second by Alderman Johnson. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. What are your wishes?
I'd move that we proceed as directed in closed session.
Second.
All right, a motion and a second. Discussion. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Updated.
Number 4, consideration with possible action on the request by Alderman LaFave that if the park department has no policy on notification of residents, neighbors of major additions or alterations that would directly affect them, I'm therefore asking for a policy or ordinance to be put in place.
Motion to receive and place on file.
Just, if I could just mention,
We do have a motion. Is there a second on that?
Second that.
All right, there's a motion and a second to receive and place supply. Director, if you want to give your update before you vote on that.
Yeah, the only update I have is I did speak to Alder LaFave today in regards to this, and what she recommended we do is hold on this request until she can be here at the next park committee meeting.
I'm not changing.
Discussion? I mean, I'm fine with holding it too. I mean, we can, whatever we want to do with it next time is fine.
So it's
Holding
what's the
Trump the
motion?
original motion?
Well, there's a motion on the floor.
Yeah.
We gotta vote on it.
Ah, boy. You still staying with your second?
Yeah.
All right. Well, then unless there's any other discussion, those in favor of receiving and placing on file?
Aye.
Those opposed? No.
No.
Just a minute, is Stoyer
I said no.
still on the
No.
committee?
Yeah.
He still is?
Yep. He's taking Alderman Burnett's place.
Do you want me to leave?
No, I'm not gonna ask you to leave.
All right, we have a motion. Entertain a motion to hold until our next meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Alderman Stoyer. Is there a second? I'll second it. Under discussion, those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
All right.
No recommendation?
No recommendation to city council.
How's it work at the committee level? Does the chair break a tie?
No.
I
That'd be
think-
I don't know
cool.
how that works.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I think it goes back as no recommendation.
No recommendation, the council
We
will
might need to
discuss it.
give it a
So
little more.
let's basically let her,
A vote and a half,
give
1.1.
her
1.1.
a presentation on that.
All right, we had our update on Colburn Pool. That's what we did first.
That's fine, thank you.
It's closing for the summer.
Yes.
Okay.
That's fine.
Director's report, updates,
I've
recent
never been there
activities.
anyway.
Oh, next year, maybe your first year. Next year. Grand
Do they
opening.
sell ice cream? Because Fisk gave free ice cream. Will Colburn give free
We'll
ice
have that
cream
at our
up here?
opener. We have free ice cream.
I mean, larger than Fisk, so they can.
Are we done yet?
You got it for inflation. You gotta
It's right.
make up for that. All
I
right.
have a picture, just briefly, of Alderman Nicholson, Alderman Zima, and the mayor, all chatting together at the opening of
Eating ice
Can
cream.
we
frame
It was, yes.
We were
those
discussing
screens.
the chicken
wallpaper back
fights,
here?
Was there a
and
yellow?
Mayor
It
Schmidt
was a
lost.
happy time.
It's on top of Zuma.
All right.
What a walrus.
Okay.
All right, as some of you know and have gotten probably some calls on, we've had some, we had a lot of wet weather, and then we had a lot of sunny weather, which causes grass to grow really fast, and we have been trying to keep up and catch up with our mowing schedule, but it's been tough, so, but we're doing our best, and we're getting caught up, but it's gonna be, if we keep getting weather like this with Rhett and Wayne, it's gonna continue to be long, so we're doing our best with that. The Rush Aquatic Center and Joanne's Aquatic Center, on a good note, are open. We're open over the weekend and now we're officially open today for the summer. So we're excited about that. We have Green Bay Packers First Down for Trees program, donated 45 trees. Great Lakes Restoration Initiative grant supported 65 trees. We had 1,300 Arbor Day seedlings were distributed to Green Bay school students. And so we have a lot of trees that are going into our city, which is good, because they're replacing a lot of the trees that we've lost due to emerald ash borer. Let's see, we have our elevator. We have staff selected the interior finishes of the elevator cars, so work will begin soon on the replacement of the elevators. Work has begun at East River Optimist site for the new concession stands. So construction will begin any day on the new concession stands for those. Red Smith Shelter, construction will begin very soon on that also. So we have a lot of projects that are either underway or starting very soon, which is exciting. Playground program started today at all of our 35 sites this season. We have our 5th annual Fit in the Parks, which fitness series that will start very soon. In early July. We have one Fit Families session that will be on Thursday over at Nicolay. I brought it up a little bit earlier, but staffing for pools, really all the, Bay Beach has had its challenges, playgrounds had its challenges, but pools especially had its challenges this year. Staffing, so we will continue. We'll be hosting actually a lifeguard training course beginning tomorrow at Joanne's Aquatic Center. So we have about 20 people in that course right now that are going to be trained and hopefully working for us this summer. So that should help out, but unfortunately not a lot of people want to work full-time anymore. They want to make their own schedules and sub when they want. So it's been a tough, challenging year, but we're getting through, and both aquatic centers are open. Bay Beach is now open full-time hours, so from 10 to 9, 7 days a week, so that's exciting. The Wildlife Sanctuary had 104 school groups that toured in the last month, about 3,500 children, plus adults and chaperones. So it's been a very busy month for the Wildlife Sanctuary. Camps, summer camps start next week for the Wildlife Sanctuary. 14 out of the 22 summer camps are already full, but there's still some remaining openings. The 4K Oak Learning Center school year came to an end last Thursday on June 6th. We celebrated with graduations out at the amphitheater, and that is it.
Dan, couple items. I recommended this to Donnie years ago, and she never got back to me, and I don't think she ever will anymore. But I made a recommendation, and it wasn't formal. It was just a verbal with Donnie, like during this director's report. Is it difficult to bring in like cinnamon almonds like they do down in Summerfest? It is?
Bay Beach?
Yeah.
They have?
They do?
Yeah, we added them this year, I think.
Oh,
Let's go
okay,
buy
I
some.
didn't know that. I was looking
So-
for
Because
it.
you asked last year.
So Jason has added a lot of cool things out there. If you haven't been out there.
Where do you have it? Where are you serving them?
I'd have to check
I-
and see which.
Never
ones.
mind, I'll figure it out
Yeah.
next time.
But
Don't worry.
How
We're
late you open
looking at
tonight?
other
Follow the
things.
smell. Follow the smell.
Yeah, I
Open till
couldn't
9
smell 'em.
tonight, right?
Whatever, huh?
Open till 9?
You can go out there, yeah.
All right.
Well, how about bringing beer to the, no, I'm just kidding. The other issue is, I brought up to Donnie was, and she was supposed to get back to me, this was years ago, tip jars for the employees. I was just wondering, what's your opinion on that? I know
At
they're-
Bay Beach in
At Bay
particular?
Beach. If the proper management is in charge of it after every shift, so there's no sticky fingers, you know what I mean?
I'll have to look into that.
I was just wondering if they would, like a part, because I do see it at places that just volunteer, like at high schools, if they have like a basketball game at Preble, I've seen it, other volunteers, and I'm just wondering, I brought it to Donnie's attention years ago.
Let me look into it.
If it's not a good
little bit.
idea, that's fine.
I'd like to talk to the management staff
Yeah.
out there and get some input from them before I answer.
Absolutely. There was another item I can't remember, but I'll, let me think about it. I'm done.
Anything else? Alderman Stratton? No? Back to you. Didn't think of it?
I'll have to give you a call, Dan.
Okay.
Motion to receive and place on file, is that what you're looking for?
Alderman Nicholson, motion to receive and place on file, second by Alderman Steuer.
Okay.
Discussion, those in favor?
All right,
Opposed, motion carried. Looks like the next meeting tentatively set Wednesday, July 10th.
motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Alderman Nicholson, second by Alderman Johnson. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Let's go get some cinnamon.
Yeah, I know. I was gonna say,
I need a
yeah.
tenner. God, after
was
listening to you,
holding my
Steuer, I
breath.
need